Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're looking way past those standard trading charts to uncover the true mechanics of how markets actually work. If you've ever watched a price just suddenly halt in its tracks or aggressively spike out of nowhere, well, we're going to peel back the layers today and look at the actual forces driving those movements. It's going to be a fun one.
Okay, let's dive into this with a massive question. What actually forces a price to move? Most traders spend their entire careers obsessing over lagging indicators. They're looking at lines crossing over each other, or patterns that tell you what happened hours or even days ago. But here's the secret. Those indicators don't force anything to happen. They're just the aftermath. To really understand market mechanics, we have to stop looking at the footprints and start looking at the feet that are actually making them. Using conventional tools like standard price charts or moving averages is exactly like reading a history book, right? It only tells you what happened 5 minutes or 5 days ago. Order flow trading, on the other hand, is like watching the battlefield in real time. Instead of relying on some summary of past events, order flow lets us witness the live, continuous interaction of buyers and sellers as they actually execute their trades. It completely shifts our perspective from making historical assumptions to seeing the real-time mechanical truth.
And that brings us to this incredibly powerful quote from our source material: "The market functions as an invisible war." I absolutely love this metaphor. Price movement isn't random. It's the direct result of a constant, invisible clash between two very distinct market forces. And to truly grasp why a price moves, we really need to meet the two armies fighting this war.
Section 1. The Defenders. Market Intent.
So this passive side of the market is all about what participants plan to do way before the price even arrives at a specific level. The structural foundation for these defenders is something called the Centralized Limit Order Book, or the CLOB. Think of the CLOB as a transparent ledger, or quite literally a massive waiting list. It aggregates every single visible buy and sell limit order in the entire market. These are resting orders. It's totally passive participation. These are traders firmly stating, hey, I will only buy or I will only sell at this exact specific price. Now, to actually see this waiting list, we use the depth of market, or the DOM. The DOM visually displays exactly where this passive intent is concentrated on our battlefield. It shows you the real-time liquidity levels, laying out perfectly where traders are placing their bids and offers. Basically, it gives you total transparency into where the defensive lines are being drawn long before the battle even reaches that price point. And this brilliantly illustrates a core concept. Intent alone does not move the market. You see, the limit orders sitting in the CLOB just represent potential, not actual movement. We call this the resting giant, because while this passive liquidity doesn't push the price forward, it creates massive areas of gravitational pull, or structural brick walls, that can completely and utterly halt market momentum.
Section 2. The Attackers. Historical Reality. But an unmoving price isn't much of a market, is it? To get movement, we need our second army. On one side, we have our passive intent, those limit orders waiting patiently. On the other side, we have our attackers, representing historical reality, which is born through aggressor volume. Aggressor volume consists of market orders. These are the active participants who absolutely do not want to wait on a list. They want to execute their trades right now at the current going price.
Aggressor volume is the spark. It's the active force that finally validates that passive intent. When a market order hits a resting limit order, boom, an actual trade is executed. That potential trade that was just sitting in the CLOB is finally turned into a concrete, completed transaction. Without these active aggressors, our resting giants would literally just sit there forever.
Section 3. When forces collide, absorption and consumption. So the crucial point is understanding what happens when these forces finally clash, which triggers a strict 3-step mechanical sequence. First, market intent draws the defensive lines on the DOM through resting limit orders. Second, aggressor volume enters the market and begins to consume that liquidity. Finally, when the aggressor volume is strong enough to eat through all the intent at a specific level, the price has no choice. It is mechanically forced to move to the next tick just to find more liquidity. This continuous, relentless interaction is exactly how price action is born.
But wait, what if the attackers aren't strong enough? Well, that is called absorption. When the concentration of resting liquidity in the CLOB is incredibly dense, it acts like a giant brick wall. The CLOB provides so much volume that it completely eats the incoming aggressive market orders. The aggressors totally fail to consume the defensive line. And despite all that active buying or selling pressure, the price doesn't move a single tick. The momentum is entirely absorbed by the resting giant.
Section 4. Night vision goggles. Visualizing order flow. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that knowing this theory is great, but seeing it happen live is an absolute game changer, especially using tools like Bookmap. These specific visual features completely expose the hidden market microstructure. Heat maps show you the exact density of the CLOB, revealing the structural strength and those bright brick walls of liquidity before price even gets there. Volume dots visualize the executed trades, the aggressor volume showing you exactly where and when the attackers are striking. And the DOM provides the baseline real-time liquidity levels. You are literally watching the battle lines and the gunfire simultaneously. It's incredible. When you put all of this together, your entire perspective shifts. Order flow trading is all about understanding why price moves, not just where it has been. You stop guessing based on those lagging indicators, and you start observing the pure, real-time dynamics between passive liquidity and executed volume. You are reading the actual mechanics of the market as they happen. So I want to leave you with this thought as we wrap up this explainer. If you have the tools to look directly into the CLOB, to spot the resting giants and actually see the defensive lines drawn in the market long before the attackers even arrive, how is that going to change the way you trade tomorrow? Once you start seeing the invisible war, you can never really go back to just reading the history books. Keep learning, keep analyzing that order flow, and I'll see you in the next explainer.